Hi, I'm Jon Horovitz, founder and president of Atrium Unlimited Consulting and host of the Boon of Wireless podcast. So today the tables have been turned and I'm the guest on a podcast. I was welcomed into Chris Whitaker's podcast, The Wireless Way, recently, and Chris asked me to come on and talk about my journey from a quiet upbringing in a suburban Philadelphia town to now having 33 plus years in wireless telecoms. It's been a great trip and I have a lot of people to thank. Also, I am overly humbled to be featured on the cover of CIO Review magazine that came out late June. It's a great article and you can view it. Take a look down the screen at CIOreview.com. Okay, enjoy the wireless way with Chris Whitaker, and we'll see you back at the Boon of Wireless real soon.
Hey, welcome to another episode of The Wireless Way. I'm your host, Chris Whitaker, and as always, I am grateful that you're here and you're listening, and I'm equally grateful for Jon Horovitz to join us as our guest today. And before we get to Jon, a little bit about him, of course, you want to know who is Jon. He's a seasoned sales executive and leader in the mobile industry, hence why he's on the wireless way. He's known for his expertise in building and team building, revenue growth, and contract negotiations, with a background including roles at AT&T Wireless and Nextel Communications. And if you don't know who Nextel Communications is, and you need to listen to this. You need some history, right? Because that goes back. Notable achievements include growing Nextel's consumer base in New York from 200,000 to over 900,000 subscribers and generating nearly $1 billion in revenue with a B. As director of prepaid sales for Boost Mobile, he expanded sales and branded retail locations for Sprint. His work spans telecom with clients such as Deloitte, Univision, and AT&T, of course. He holds a BA from the College of William and Mary and has even authored a book, so we can call him author as well. He founded Atrium Unlimited Consulting in 2006 and assists companies looking to join the MVNO, or mobile virtual network operator space. Something that I'm always interested in. So we hope we jump into that just a little. I'm sure we will. So Jon works with all three major U.S. cellular providers, their aggregators, and all support functions, and has helped launch numerous MVNOs. And in 2022, Jon was named the United States ambassador to MVNO Nation. Got to hear more about that, I hope. And based in the United Kingdom, and who services hundreds of MVNOs in Europe, Asia, and Africa. Jon launched the very popular podcast, The Boon of Wireless, in February of 2024. I'm going to ask him about that as well. Jon, did I get it right? Is that who you are?
Yeah, Chris, it's good to see you. Thank you for having me on. I guess that's who I am. There's a lot more beneath the surface there that I think we'll probably get into on the journey to where we are today. And yeah, the $1 billion in revenue in Nextel, that was in the early 2000s. So that's when $1 billion was still $1 billion.
Yeah, that meant something then.
That meant something. Okay. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm a little uncomfortable, just so you know. One, this shirt, I think, is blinding your audience. But two, I'm normally the one asking the questions. So you've put me in a very uncomfortable position here, but I'm going to try to.
Well, hey, Jon, okay. You're welcome. I mean, that's what, okay. I mean, it's good to be uncomfortable sometimes. You got to get out of our comfort zone. I think the shirt looks amazing. I would wear that shirt. I feel underdressed. I got a very boring shirt on. So if you're listening to the audio version, you want to go check out the YouTube channel version so you can see Jon and myself, and we can have a vote who has the coolest shirt, which I think you're going to win. I think it looks great on you.
My wife bought me this shirt for Barcelona Mobile World Congress, where I fit in. Here in northern New Jersey, I'm not sure, but we'll roll with it. We'll see what happens.
I think Jon, it works.
Now I'm going to be Jon the Shirt Horovitz, but let's go ahead. Okay.
Well, I'm going to have to get me a shirt like that. So right, you kind of tip the hands a little bit. We that's your professional bio. That's what people know about you that see you speak or run into you in business or work with your firm. But I'm always interested in how you got here. What's the backstory? What were you doing before all this? Tell us a little bit more.
I think my backstory is a couple things. One, I've always been in the right place at the right time, and more importantly, took advantage of the opportunity. And I can give you some background on a couple instances there, and a little bit of luck. incidents happen that put you in a situation that you either take advantage of it or you remain in your comfort zone. And, you work for a company for 35 years and get a gold watch and pat on the back. Thank you very much. So there were some instances in my life that kind of shaped that. And even though it's going back to when I was 17 years old, I was playing for my high school football team. And yes, we did have face masks back then. Okay, so it wasn't that
When we're
far
just
back.
a padded helmet, huh?
Yeah. Anyway, so I missed my entire junior year of football, and I with mononucleosis. I played for a powerhouse football team, the team that nobody wanted to play. Records back from the late '70s still stand from our team, our offense and defense. Not to get too granular, but the 3 years I was there, we were 31-1-1, Pennsylvania
Wow.
state champs, which, if you know Pennsylvania football, is huge. My senior year, but I missed my entire junior year, like 7 games. And as a senior, I found myself on the second team playing the defensive end. Lo and behold, the gentleman who I'm thankful for every day, playing defensive tackle, broke his arm. And they moved me from defensive end to starting defensive tackle. And I was 185 pounds going up against linemen that were 250, 260. But, using my smarts and my quickness, I was in the backfield all game. And long story short, I earned a full football scholarship to William and Mary, which was Division I at that time. Now, wasn't the greatest player down there. If any of my friends from college that I'm still very close with see this, they'll go, "Yeah, he was there for."
They'll remind you, huh?
Yeah, they'll remind me. You weren't exactly, all American, but yeah, I didn't hurt the team by being on the field, and I had my moments of greatness, and yeah, did well. Started every game my senior year, um, but that was the being in the right place at the right time, and that was a little bit of luck. I felt bad for the guy that broke his arm. My high school friends say, "Have you sent him a check this month?" For because without that, who knows where I would have gone? And getting to William and Mary was a very, very difficult school. And actually, I had a podcast that I did this week, and the gentleman I was interviewing he's a regulatory attorney. He said he went to Georgetown Law, which was very hard to get into. And he said, "Well, was William and Mary hard to get into?" I said, "Well, not only was it hard to get into, it was hard to get out of. It was a tough school, but top-notch education, football, lifelong friends, and that I think set me on a trajectory of being successful. And so that was one of the ones where there was an opportunity. They said, "John, we want to move you to defensive tackle." And I said, "I'm 40 pounds, 50 pounds lighter than these offensive linemen." They said, "Don't worry about it. You're going to do fine." And I did. So, yeah, that's kind of the backstory on what set me on a path. Because I wasn't really sure if I didn't think I was going to play football at all after high school. And ended up having a good career. Not, we had people on our team that year that ended up going to the NFL for 8-10 years. And who knows where I would have gone? Community college, big university in Pennsylvania. Who
And
knows
what
where the
did you
path?
study there? What was your major?
I have a bachelor's of business administration in management marketing, and I actually minored in philosophy. So sometimes I look out the window and go, "Why is this happening?" But so that was it, yeah. And but majorly, and also majored in fraternity, which was also a good way to round out your social life back then. But so yeah, so that was kind of the being in the right place combined with a little bit of luck. And there were other times in my career. Leaving William and Mary, I was very lucky to get a job with one of the most sought after companies, Procter and Gamble, who for that DC, Maryland, Virginia region recruited exclusively at our college. And I actually missed the interviews when they were on campus, and went through a recruiter after graduation, and they sent me down to talk to them. They said, "Where were you? How come we didn't see you?" I said, "I don't know," but they hired me. And I was living in Charlottesville, Virginia, at UVA, only 2 hours from William and Mary, so I was able to keep the connections, meet new people. But I left there after a couple of years and went to Polaroid, if you remember the old Polaroid.
Oh yeah.
So I was there for 6 years, and they moved me to New York. And wow, that was a big change. And living in the Shenandoah Valley of Virginia, you know, just enjoying life, nice and quiet. And all of a sudden, I'm in the Big Apple. And the unfortunate thing there that turned out well, I had just met the woman I had married, that I eventually married. And 2 months after we started dating, I got transferred to New York. She was in D.C. But you know what? It worked out. We saw each other on the weekends. We were engaged 9 months later, married 9 months later. And so my wife, Jean, and I have raised two beautiful daughters up here in northern New Jersey. And, you know, at the end of the day, it was like, okay, who are we going to promote? Are we going to promote John, who's single and rents a house? Or are we going to promote, you know, this guy who's married with 3 kids and has a mortgage? John, you're going to New York. And it was the plum job in the company, the New York office. And we did very well. Got another promotion after that. But yeah, after that, I got an opportunity to join Sony Corporation of America, which was the pinnacle of consumer electronics. And after about 6 months of figuring out what I was doing, it was very easy, just moving inventory around. I had 3 accounts. 2 of them now are out of business. I had Sears Montgomery Ward in Chicago, and I was there every other week. And Target was just starting in Minneapolis. So it was 3 really good accounts that I grew from, like Sears and Ward's. We're each doing about 10 million in revenue with us, and each ended up at about 100 million when I departed. And the next moment in my life of seeing an opportunity and taking advantage of it was we flew to O'Hare, me and a couple guys in our phone business, the regular desk phones and portable phones. And we get into the cab to go down to downtown Chicago from O'Hare, and they open up their briefcases and they pull out this thing and they start talking on it. And I said, "What is that?" They said, "This is the future. This is a cell phone." I said, "How does this thing work? What does it do?" Well, lo and behold, 3 weeks later, I got a call from a recruiter asking me if I would consider a director's role at the Metro One in New York, which was the non-wireline startup. About 200 people in the company competing against what was then Bell Atlantic and New York Telephone, which became Verizon. And I took the job, and that was 33 years ago that I've been in the wireless business. And again, opportunity knocked. My neighbors, my parents says, "You can't leave Sony. This is Sony. Let's see, how are we going to get free TVs if you leave?" No.
And what were you doing at Sony? Was it sales?
National account sales manager,
Okay.
growing the business with everything we had, camcorders, televisions, Walkmans,
CD
the
players,
whole thing, the whole gamut. Big rack system stereos where their speakers were like your end tables, if you remember those.
I do.
Yeah, and it was a great job. A lot of prestige, a lot of travel. It was fun, but it was boring. Just moving inventory around and trying to meet all the needs. But like again, my friends and parents said, you can't leave Sony. This is it. This is Sony. You're going to be there for the next year. You're going to be running that place soon. I said, I don't think so. And I took a chance. And I've been in the wireless business now for 33 years. And it's been a great ride for me. I've met the most wonderful people. I've been mentored by some great people in the industry. And now I'm to the point where I don't want to say I'm the old wise sage, because obviously there's people out there that are smarter than me. But I think the journey that I took from February of 1991 to today, working for, as you said, that Metro One went through 3 or 4 different name changes, ended up being AT&T. Then we all went to Nextel, which was probably, except for what I'm doing now, probably the greatest experience, 7 years of my life. Professional life was working for Nextel. The camaraderie, the risk taking, learned a lot on how to manage, not only manage and lead. I should not use the word manage, because anybody can manage. Lead teams, be their advocate, manage up. I always said to people when I interviewed them, and when I interviewed for top positions, that anybody could manage a team to a number. Like if your quota is 100 and you have 5 guys, you don't give them each 20. You give them each 25, because someone's going to fail, someone's going to exceed. But yeah, and you just manage them to the number. Anybody can do that. you threaten them, you put them on a performance thing. I'm so far removed from that now. But to actually lead people, to lead by example, use the knowledge that you've gained when you were in their role. They used to say in the old days, and I'm going to really date myself now, they'll never be successful because they never carried the bag. Remember that one?
Oh yeah.
You had to carry the sales bag to know how to uh, lead people that are carrying a sales bag. They don't.
That's right.
Because when you're out there and it's you're in Southeast United States. I'm up here in North Jersey, but when it's 102 degrees in the car and you're sliding across the seat trying to get to your next call, people don't see that. People don't see that. You're out there by yourself, making your calls on stores or clients, whatever you're doing. So, so I was very good being their advocate, as I said, and managing upwards. Like, tell me, what are the top 3 things that you need to be successful in your job? And they would throw everything that sticked. We need more time off. We need, better benefits.
More
Okay,
money.
what do you need on a daily basis? And I would go up and manage upstairs and say, this is what I need, and give them some wins and let them know that,
Right.
look, if you need something, you come to me. And
Got it.
one of the things that I did, and I still do when I meet a new group or work with a new group, but started when I started managing teams, was sit everybody down in a room, introduce myself, because normally when you join a new team, nobody knew you, new company, nobody knew you. And I would say there's 2 rules, and we're going to live by 2 rules, or we're going to die by 2 rules. Number 1, when we leave this room today, we're all going to be singing off the same sheet of music. Okay, what does that mean? We're going to agree what our objectives are, what our goals are, what our KPIs, whatever you want to call them, and that's what we're going to work towards. Now, this is a democracy. We're going to discuss and agree on what we're going to be singing off of and how we're going to do it. I have the final say. That's why they hired me, to make decisions. But we're going to be in agreement when we walk out of here that this is the path that we're all going through. Number 2, and more importantly, is no surprises. You're all smart people, else you wouldn't be here. Sometimes you think if something goes wrong, you can fix it. I don't want to get a call, because I have in the past, from my superiors saying, what is going on here, with no idea of what was going on, whether it was a credit that was issued that was over somebody's limit, or whether it was an account that decided to move away from us and go to somebody else. So I said, the second rule is no surprises. I don't want to find out from someone above me what's going on in my organization. You come to me. If you can't fix this, you call me. I'm not Winston Wolfe from Pulp Fiction that fixes everything. All right. But
the cleaner.
the
Yeah.
cleaner. Yes. I'll be there in 45 minutes, and 12 minutes later, he pulls up. Great movie. For you younger folks out there, Pulp Fiction. I will take the problem and I will work with the right people to get it fixed. I want to nip it in the bud before it gets too big, before the CFO was calling saying, did you guys actually do this? And me having no knowledge of it. So those are the 2 rules. We're all going in the same direction on what we as a team have agreed upon.
Yeah.
And let's work together to mitigate any small issues, which will most likely turn into a big issue. So, and that's kind of the way I've tried to manage my entire career. And now that I have my own consulting company, and the people that I have that assist me and clients that I talk to, I said, let's agree. Let's agree on the scope of work, and what it's going to cost, what the time frame is, what do we have to do to readjust or pivot if we get to a decision tree and it's not something we thought about. Let's all agree on this up front, so there are part 2, no surprises.
Yeah. Well, speaking of working, I mean, 33 years in the business, really, when I first thought of having you on, I was really interested in, is the trends that you're seeing in wireless. I mean, thinking back to, it wasn't that long ago in organizations, the only people that got a cell phone was the VPs, the executives. Now everyone in the organization has. And in fact, it's not only used for phone anymore, it's used to actually do their job sometimes. So what are you seeing? Just to kind of pivot a little bit. And by the way, thank you for sharing all that. Cause you nailed it, man. Leadership, you have to set the course. You have to make sure everybody knows where the true north is. But I want to pivot a little bit just into, the trends you're seeing and knowing that a lot of the audience are technical advisors or consultants, why should they pay attention? And what's going on in the mobility industry? Where's opportunity?
Well, as you know, there's more cell phones, mobile devices in use right now in America than there are men, women, and child. Uh, Second lines, business lines, whatever you want to call it. And the phone has really become a commodity. Yeah, the only people that had phones back in the late 80s, early 90s were doctors, lawyers. They were installed, hard installed into your car. You couldn't take them with you when you get out. And then the bag phone came, which people were walking around with like a knapsack with a phone coming out of it. And then the whether it was the Motorola Razor or something else that came out, it just opened it up. And now the industry is thriving. We have gone from 4 nationwide carriers to 3. That's Verizon, T-Mobile, and AT&T. Dish Network is still threatening to build a nationwide network. I hope they do. It'll be good for competition. But this other thing that has exploded in the wireless industry is the area that I sort of specialize in, and that's the mobile virtual network operators, as you said in the beginning, MVNOs. It's becoming very still expensive, still a commitment, but it's becoming more easy, more able for the guy that does not know a whole lot about wireless, but has the ability, sales and marketing, and has a differentiator that's going to make him different to get into the MVNO business. There is still a financial commitment. You have to have a lot of pieces of the puzzle to put together, 9 or 10 at last count, that are going to be managed by an MVNE, an enabler, mobile virtual network enabler. But you're seeing an explosion right now of new entrants to the markets. So you've got your traditional people that have been around, like Consumer Cellular has been around. Had 4 million subscribers, were bought for I think 1.2 billion or something like that. Just this week, the FCC agreed to allow T-Mobile to purchase one of their aggregators, and that's just what it sounds like. They aggregate smaller MVNOs and then shoot them up to T-Mobile. One of their aggregators is along with 2 very successful brands, Ultra Mobile and Mint Mobile. And again, people know of Mint Mobile because of the fantastic job that Ryan Reynolds did promoting them. So you're seeing one of the dynamics is that the carriers, the big 3 carriers, are buying the MVNOs, along with Mint being purchased by T-Mobile. You had Verizon purchasing TracFone, 20 million customers, which made them overnight the largest prepaid carrier in the country. A few years ago, you had Metro PCS was absorbed by T-Mobile. Now it's Metro by T-Mobile. And now, of course, 2 years ago, as part of the T-Mobile Sprint merger / acquisition, they were forced to spin off Boost Mobile, who I spent some time with, and they're now owned by Dish Network. So you're seeing the landscape change. You're seeing people saying this is not good for competition. You're seeing others saying it is good for competition. But the wireless business continues to grow. But every one of those new customers that they all just reported last month in April their first quarter earnings, and they all had positive net adds. That's how many people you end with after the quarter for your listeners. Versus the previous quarter, they all had positive numbers. And big cable, Charter Communications with its Spectrum brand, and Xfinity, which is part of Comcast, and the newest one, Cox Cable, they've all offered now mobile along with their broadband and their home phone and internet and all that good stuff. So they're putting on massive numbers. All of those numbers came from somebody else. Okay. So when you go back to the word I used before, differentiator, a new MVNO is starting up. I know personally of about 10 that are coming on board in the next, I'd say 3 months. And I'm working with a couple of those to get them launched by, end of Q3. I always ask when someone says, we want to get into the MVNO business. And I say, well, what is your differentiator? Why am I going to join Whitaker Wireless? There you go. Why am I going to join you and leave Verizon or Ultra or Consumer or AT&T, what's the value proposition to me? What's your differentiator? A lot of them don't know what they want to do, and the ones that do know usually say we want to be the lowest price and provide the best customer service possible. And I wish them best of luck, and say,
Can an MVNO be less cost than the carrier themselves?
Absolutely. That's the whole reason that there are MVNOs, because they don't have the infrastructure costs. They're not putting towers up at $1 million a crack or whatever they are. All these towers and facilities based operations. So so traditionally, the MVNOs are cheaper than their host network, whether it's, again, one of the big three. But there is some limitations on what they can offer, and you can't use their name. Like if I'm a T-Mobile MVNO, I can't put on my website, we're on the T-Mobile network, powered by T-Mobile. You can show their maps, and everybody knows that magenta is T-Mobile, red is AT&T, and blue is Verizon. I may have this two mixed up. The other way. Blue is AT&T, red's Verizon. See that? And you can really tell by the maps and the coverage and their taglines. You can use their tagline. Like, I think T-Mobile says we're the largest and fastest 5G network. And what you miss out on without being direct with the carrier as an MVNO is domestic roaming. Now, they all claim they cover 89, 99% of the population, but not to pick on Wyoming or Montana, but if you're from New York or LA or Atlanta, and you want to go fly fishing in Montana, if you are direct with one of the carriers, you'll roam onto another carrier's network, and it'll be seamless. As an MVNO customer, that's limited. Some offer it, most don't. You will not have service, because it's just too difficult for them to manage that. Because remember, the MVNO is going to get billed by the carrier for everything that their end user does. So they just want to mitigate a little bit of risk there. But that's one of the challenges. It used to be that they didn't get the iconic handsets at the same time as the carrier did. And I think when the iPhone 15 came out, maybe there was a week delay or 2-week delay in letting the MVNOs have that phone as well. Obviously, the big carriers did a lot of advertising, and they wanted to have kind of a jump start. But it used to be they wouldn't get that phone until the next generation came out. So the gap is closed. Really the roaming and some of the international long distance is always a risk, but it's getting much closer between the two.
Do you feel like are the carriers, do they like having MVNOs? They're okay with that, you think? Is it easy to become one, or is it hard to become an MVNO?
Yeah, they do like it because it's another sales channel. And again, the MVNOs were started originally to get into the nooks and crannies and a lot of the ethnic markets that the carriers couldn't get into. You've got some closed ethnic groups out there that only want to deal with their own. They're I don't want to say they're mistrusting of anybody that is not part of their community, but if you get into some of these ethnic enclaves in the major cities, they want to deal with their own, which is fine. So you would hire someone and make them an MVNO that could get that done for you, because you weren't going to get it done. There was no way if you went in there and tried to speak their language, they would, no thanks. And that's why there's different rules. Like, for example, in New York City, in the 5 boroughs, there's a lot of places that are closed on Saturday because of the religious Sabbath. And the carriers, wholesale groups that manage the MVNOs said, no, you need to be open on Saturday. And they said, no. They said, well, hire somebody that's not, part of that. And no, because if my store is open, my community will shun me. So no. And the carriers still are insisting that, not the carriers, some of the MVNOs are insisting that those stores be open 7 days a week. And it's just you're not going to change, 3,000, 5,000 years worth of religious beliefs to satisfy, an MVNO.
So is that your main work today? Really is consulting and helping folks, helping businesses that are in the wireless space that want to become an MVNO, right?
Yeah.
I mean, is there an easy answer to like what is there like three things you got to have, but even get their attention? Are there MVNOs that work with all
Yep.
three? Are there MVNOs that just kind of go with
Yep.
one? I
Yep.
mean, what?
All the above. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do have some clients. Our company has some clients that have people that have great products or great services, and they hire us to introduce them to the 150 or 170 MVNOs that are here in the U.S. right now. Again, the top 15 do 90% of the business, but there are services that are coming out that would create additional revenue streams for these MVNOs and the carriers as well. But the questions really are the two questions that we ask right off the bat. What is your differentiator, which you talked about? What is your distribution model? How are you, okay, you've got a great differentiator, and I could give you some examples, but um, how are you going to go to market? Are you going to have brick and mortar? Are you going to be 100% digital? Are you going to is your differentiator part of dealing with an association with 15 million members, and they're going to call it, say, Whitaker Mobile or Whitaker Wireless, and Whitaker has like a AAA or one of the big insurance companies, 15 million members, and we're going to market directly to that. And I always joke, are you going to take out a banner behind an airplane and fly it around the beach in the summer with an 800 number on it? How are you going to go to market? Because that's another expense people don't think about. Yeah, and so that's the main part of the business is people that don't know wireless. I'm working with a client right now. They have a great differentiator. They haven't launched yet, so I really can't talk about it. They have a differentiator that's going to blow you away, but they knew nothing about wireless, nothing. They have their niche of what they do, and they're happy. And they said, "Well, wait a minute. Why don't we turn this into a revenue stream? What is this MVNO thing?" So they said, "How do I start an MVNO?" In the Google search, and guess whose name comes up first? So they called me. Yeah,
Here
here
we
we
are.
are. And they called me, and we did all the things. We interviewed each other, and I said, "This is the scope of work." I said, "Well, we need this." Okay, fine. And we agreed on it, and we signed an agreement, and we're very, very, very down the path now, far down the path, working with all the third-party people. Like I will probably upset somebody with this comment, but I tell these MVNO prospects, you do not want to be in the handset business. Leave that to people that, if you don't know wireless, why would you fill up your warehouse with an iPhone or a Samsung or a Motorola that's going to be replaced in 6 months? You don't know how to manage the transition from Model A to Model B. There are people that do this. There are a couple companies out there where on your website, where you hit purchase a phone, it goes to this organization. They do it for thousands and thousands of customers every month, and they ship the phone, they finance the phone, they match the SIM card to the phone. I said, you do not want to be in that business, handset, and they agree. Because I said, when they change out the models, you're going to have a couple thousand useless things in your warehouse that you paid this for, and now you got to sell it for that. And stay out of that business. You've got accessories, you've got customer service, you've got international long distance providers. So there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle. Then you have to find what's called an enabler, the MVNE, to tie it all together and make sure it all talks. And that's the hard part. That's really once you start doing your integrations and implementations, that's the really tough part. So you need people that know how this stuff works, like our company does and other companies do, or you need to have someone on your staff that's got telecom experience. A lot of these MVNOs that come to us have no wireless experience at all. And, we as I said many times, we turn down more people than we take on, one from a timing.
Do you ever track the success rate? Like, out of 10 people coming to you, how many of them actually make it and become profitable?
I would say we don't track how many people come to us. I would say how many people we engage with. Yes. The two I'm working with right now are getting ready to launch in the next 60 to 90 days. We know from talking to the underlying carrier that they will be successful. When I put this group in front of one of the three major carriers last August, they were blown away. They're like, wow, because they're not looking for me too's. They don't want somebody who's going to compete on price. Because, think about it. When you look at some of the SIM card only people that are out there, like Simple Mobile and Mint and Ultra, all these other people. It's really a race to the bottom. Who can be the cheapest? And that's not a long-term strategy. And so you look for people that um, aren't going to be $15 a month if you buy 3 months in advance. And you know what? It worked for Mint. It was a great concept, but they don't want another Me Too. They want somebody that's going to bring something different to the market, something exciting to the market. And yeah, so I think out of the people that we've brought, it's a very, very high success rate. No one's gone out of business, knock wood. But the MVNO business has changed as well. And that's a very, very large business. The MVNO used to be, the burner phones, if you see in the mob movies, or the cartel movies, right? Call me on the burner. And it used to be for what was called the unbankable people. Prepaid now is mainstream. When you've got brick and mortar stores like Boost and Metro by T-Mobile, and I'm sure I'm missing other people, but it's now a legitimate business. It's not, you don't have to feel bad that you have a prepaid phone. As the line between the carriers and the MVNOs has blurred and gotten very close to each other, so has the line between postpaid customers, which is what Wall Street loves in our industry, and prepaid customers is also, that line is very blurred. I mean, I have a prepaid phone plan with one of the 3 carriers right now. I pay it in advance, right? Just like prepaid. Now, the differences there are, if you don't pay your bill, prepaid, if you don't re-up after 30 days, and that's why you try to get the credit card to hit it automatically, your service is turned off and you're done. And yeah, you have, time to pay the bill and, continue on. With a carrier, you keep going and they keep the meter running, and then they done you a few times, and then they send collections after you. But you never lost your service, right? So, yeah, that's the difference. The prepaid, but again, more and more people are going to the prepaid model because it's it's easier for them. Yeah,
Interesting. Now, that's again, you're right. I think everybody's got their swim lanes they're in. I'm in the telecom channel. I've been a specialist for mobility and IoT and wireless in general. Yeah, my first half of my career was all cable and fiber. So I pivoted about 7 years ago, went from terrestrial landline to all things wireless, and it's been a blast. I mean, again, that's why I love hearing stories about people that pivot, change their direction. Either you're a benefit of being in the right place at the right time, or sometimes the wrong thing may happen, but it opens a door for something else. Speaking of something else, again, I feel like we could keep going on that, but maybe in another episode we can, or definitely in the second phone call with you and I like to, I guess, more other questions. But so we mentioned in your bio, you have your own podcast, and as you said earlier, you're used to being the host. 2 questions on that. Tell me about the title, The Boon of Wireless, and what was the inspiration for it?
A boon, is something that happens that's good. And the example I used in my first 2 podcasts was, if they put free parking at the mall, it'll be a boon to the retailers, right? If we put in a high-speed train, like the rest of the world has, between San Francisco and LA, it'd be a boon to the economy. So that's one of the places where the boon came from. The second place it came from, I'm going to keep your listeners and my listeners and viewers guessing. It means something also very personal to me, which a lot of people in one part of my life know, and most people, if not all, in my business life don't know. So that's all we're going to say about.
And we're going to keep it a secret.
But I'm sure that someone will see this and go, "Oh, I don't work for the National Enquirer, but give me $20,000 and I'll tell you what the boon means." And when that happens, I'll do it for 10. So anyway,
yeah.
But yeah, you talk about pivoting, and we've all had very, very career highs, everybody, and there's also been some terrible lows when you do get let go. And they say it's because of consolidation, or I survived 3. Well, I didn't survive, actually. I was part of 3 merger/acquisitions. The first coming when Sprint bought Nextel. back in 2005, and that was I'm sorry, that was when Sprint bought Nextel. Well, the first one was when AT&T bought McCall Cellular / Cellular One. That was again was Metro One, Cellular One, McCall, then AT&T. We all went to Nextel after that, from the CEO down, and just had a blast. Like I said earlier, for 7 years, the greatest role of my life, except for this one now. And so I didn't survive that first one with AT&T. Didn't survive the Nextel one, which was a good thing, because it was a different Sprint back then than it was before they became the uncarrier. And Nextel was, risk taking and, being out there and just swashbuckling, if there's no other word. It was a great time to be at Nextel. And later on, I went to work for Boost, and we went from 16 regions to 8 regions, and I didn't make the cut. And it hurt, because I was doing very well in relationship to the other 15 people there in the organization. There were 16 of us at the director level. And that hurt. And I realized at that time that people didn't want a 60-year-old guy in their office. All right. They look, say what you want about ageism. I've interviewed for very, very senior level positions. And I was told by the recruiter that they didn't feel you had the right skill set. It's like, basically, the job description was my resume. So what else could it be? But you swallow. But
Right.
It's a humbling experience. But you can't sit back and lay on the couch all day and feel sorry for yourself, because you still have a family and bills to pay and everything else. So part of the pivoting or / reinventing myself, it was a tough period. Interviewing for a job, but it's still trying to make ends meet. And this was not that long ago. It was before COVID, but not that far before COVID. And I had to do things to pay the bills. So while I was interviewing and looking for a job, I was also tending bar. I drove Uber, which, if you've never been an Uber driver, do it for a couple months. It's a blast. All right.
I do. I've had some
Yeah.
of the best conversations with my
Yeah.
Uber drivers. I mean, you meet some great people, and
Great
everyone's got a
stories.
great
And
story.
knuckleheads that get in the car. I didn't work at night because I didn't want people throwing up in the back of the car or anything like that. But I cut lawns. I mean, you have to do what you got to do, and it was a humbling experience. And at that point, I said, okay. Looking at the life expectancy now in our country, which one of my guests was talking about, ageism and age tech. I'm sorry. We're living now. The average life in the U.S. now is 85. I said, I got 25 years to go here, or 30 years to go here, whatever it is. I better get off my butt and do something. No one's going to be handing me a check. And so I joined. This is one of the best things I ever did. I joined an advisory group, what was about 10 small business owners, along with a facilitator. And we helped each other with issues and problems. And they said, John, you're Mr. Wireless, right? I said, yeah, they call me Mr. Wireless. Do you have a website? I said, no. I said, all right, we have to help you build a website, which I did. Do you write? No. You got to start writing. Found a guy, and I write an article every 2 weeks for Best MVNO, digital periodical, and that really got my name out there. And then I was actually watching the Kelsey Brothers podcast last fall, and saw how much fun they were having. And I don't know if you or any of your listeners have seen my podcast.
Oh, yeah.
I try to keep it light. I mean, I get some nice guests on, really good guests, but we keep it light.
Yeah.
We do ask the tough questions, and we uncover a lot of stuff. I haven't made anybody cry yet on the podcast, but
Wait, is that a challenge?
It's way down the list. It's way down the list. But so I started doing the podcast. The first one launched mid-February, and I believe we have 750 subscribers already. I've had that after like 4 or 5 weeks, and that's opened up a lot more opportunities. Again, the phone has been ringing more. The analytics are off the charts. Like, I posted to my LinkedIn groups. I belong, like everybody, to 5 or 6 different LinkedIn groups in wireless. I had 2,100 impressions last week on the the podcast that I posted. So that's getting my quote
Good.
unquote brand out there. And yeah, we get a lot of phone calls. And once we weed out the ones that don't have an idea or don't know, I was talking to some folks the other day, and I always say, "How did you find me?" And they say, "Oh, I saw your website. We Googled, how to start an MVNO." Once you weed them out, and start getting serious with people that have the things that we talked about earlier, the differentiator, the distribution, the magic sauce, um, you can't take them all on. It's too much sometimes without hiring 8 to 10 more people. But we're in the position now where we can we'll listen to everybody, and our rule is the first phone call is free, but everybody treats us like a non-for-profit organization. They just call back, they want more information. They go, okay, listen, I've given you
That 33
yes,
years
it's
came
it.
at a
It's it.
cost, right?
It's like the electrician that was at my house today, and he walked in, and I said, "These lights don't work," and he pushed the GFI switch on, and gave me a bill for $110. And I said, $110 to push a button? And he goes, no, $110 for the last 40 years of being an electrician, so I knew what to do when I got here. And that's kind of how we look at it. Look, everybody in the organization and the 1099s that we use for special things, they have experience. They know what to do. They know what questions to ask. They know how to identify the problem and to resolve the problem. So that's kind of where it lays. And
Okay.
as you asked earlier about the,
You
I love
enjoy
what I'm
doing
doing.
it? Do you enjoy doing the
I love doing the
podcast?
podcast because it only feeds as my wife and children would say, my already huge ego. And what was the line that someone said? There's a very fine line between confidence and arrogance. And John, sometimes you cross it. I said, you have to be, if people are going to be spending the kind of money they are on consultants, and again, we don't charge the kind of rates that, uh, Deloitte and Bain and all these people do. Actually, I have consulted to them where they get a big project in wireless and they don't know anything about it. They find me through some of the consulting groups I'm in, and I get paid, $250 an hour, and they're probably getting paid $3,000 an hour, and someone's doing their work. So it's good. It's it pays for a dinner. But the
Yeah.
business, going back to COVID, really just exploded. All the carriers recorded at the time record number of new subscriptions, and it was all because mom and dad and the kids now were all working from home, right? And you needed hotspots, you needed better connectivity because your Wi-Fi was supporting one or two people. Now there was 3, 4, or 5 people doing schoolwork and homework. And I was working with a guy selling hotspots. I think we sold 6,000 hotspots in 1 month during COVID, and that kind of gave me the platform to keep growing. But the business, the MVNO business, what we specialize is it's right now it's a $13.5 billion business, and it's grown at a compound annual growth rate of about 4.3%. So that 13.7 billion is going to be by the year 2030, which is, believe it or not, five and a half years away. It's going to be about a $30 billion business, the MVNO business. It just keeps on growing and
Interesting.
growing. And I believe, and as do many others, that the next differentiator, or the next big thing, the next big thing
or
is going to be the celebrity and influencer marketing for wireless.
yeah,
Yeah,
we kind of already seen
you
it
saw
with
it in Mint.
Mint, right? Was it Ryan?
I know of 5 A-list celebrities. I'm not involved with any of them. 5 A-list celebrities that will be launching brands that either has their name in it or will be promoted by them. And yeah, it's a very, very interesting market. And again, all of those customers are coming from somewhere else, right? It's not, yeah, there are 10, 12, 14-year-olds getting their first phone, okay? But that's not fueling this growth. Like when Charter puts on in the first quarter of this year 660,000 numbers, T-Mobile put on, I don't know, 600 and more than that, I think. So, and even the ones that were struggling, like Verizon, turned it around. They're showing positive net ad growth now because they've had to do some re-engineering of how they approach the market. So the business is strong. And then when we finally get to real IoT, Internet of Things, it's just going to explode exponentially, where you've got machine to machine. Yeah,
I'm glad you brought that up. I'm glad you brought that up. So you said something about 15 minutes ago that was like bouncing around in my head, and you gave me a great segue to that. Do you know a guy named Kevin Ashter?
I do not.
I believe I got that right. Maybe it's Kevin Ashton, an Englishman from Procter and Gamble.
Okay.
And he is credited with the term IoT.
Oh, okay.
So it's a great little history story. When you said Procter and Gamble, that's what I thought. I was like, oh, I wonder if, I figured the odds of knowing Kevin Ashton was slim to none because it was like 1999.
I was way gone by then.
He tells a story that he was in charge of logistics and distribution for Procter and Gamble in the UK. And he was trying to convince the C-level that they needed to put asset trackers in the supply chain. And he, and of course, the C-level, they know business. They didn't necessarily know technology, and of course it was called machine to machine back then. And he said, I just put my PowerPoint, his name on my PowerPoint presentation. I didn't know what to call it, so I knew they knew what the internet was. I just put on of things. He goes, I should have called it four things because I've been more grammatically correct. Is internet four things? But anyway, just an interesting little side history note. Kevin Ashton, look it up. Known as the father of IoT. And I was like, man, I bet he wished he would have trademarked that, right?
Procter & Gamble, it's when they introduced the barcodes on consumer products, everything from soap to, licorice, everything. And the companies that we called on back at the time that were in our national accounts group, Montgomery Ward's, Sears, Circuit City, Silo, all the ones that, they're not, all of them are not here anymore, but they had entire departments called vendor compliance, which means me as the Sony that was supplying them, we had to be in compliance with all the barcodes and this and that. And they fined us. They would deduct from the invoices if they felt we violated. It became a profit center for them. And many fights and flights to Chicago with the CFO to say, guys, we just shipped you 8,000 televisions. You can't not pay for them. Well, you guys weren't compliant in the vendor compliance. It was a disaster. But anyway, but now you go to the supermarket, like, beep, beep, beep. So I guess it worked. We're just trying to get the kinks out of it. But,
yeah. Well, I mean, we've covered a lot, I feel like, and it's that time I feel like I'm trying to land the plane here a little bit, and I again, with 33 years of knowledge and experience and all the pivoting you've had to do, again, I know we just kind of scratched the surface. So in the show notes, I'll have your website link, and people can learn more about what you do and your show. Of course, definitely please check out the show. But is there anything we didn't hit on? Any last words you want to touch on as we wrap up?
The workplace has changed a lot since I entered it back in the very, very late 70s. Graduated from college, got my first job. And it wasn't that long ago where we wore a suit and tie, jacket and tie to work every day. Remote learning, working didn't exist. And, you've seen the workplace, the younger generations that feel that they're more productive at home, balancing the home life thing. I've been very fortunate to work for some very big companies, to work for some brilliant people. And I would not have this position today where I was able to start my own consulting company and serve some very big clients and have the relationships that I have with the carriers and the aggregators and the other spokes of the wheel to make an MVNO work, had I not put in the work and the time over 30 years. And I think that's what I would leave people with, is that it's there for you if you're willing to make the commitment and, go the extra mile.
Put in the time. I mean, you put in the time.
Both of my daughters have very good careers with, name brand, household name companies right now. And I said, so what are you doing this weekend? She goes, I got Saturday, I'll be working. I got like 4 or 5 hours of work to do, catch up. I go, there you go. And my other daughter said to me once, and they both live here in the New York, New Jersey area. So we were talking about the podcast, and they were watching it. Actually, they came home, I think, for Thanksgiving or Christmas. No, it was after that. We launched in February, and I said, just do me a favor, watch this. Just see what your father does now for a living. I mean, it's not like I'm wearing my Nextel shirt and going to Hawaii on president's clubs, and all the dealers kowtowed to me because I was the guy that controlled the marketing budgets and all that kind of stuff. I don't think anybody ever kowtowed to me, by the way. So I'll take that back. And they watched the first podcast, and they were like, "Wow, Dad!" It's like, what? I said,
Nice.
That's what I do. That's what I do. And my wife and I were having the conversation the other day how she loves being around people, and I said, you know what? I'm to the point now where I get more done on a Zoom call. And yeah, you got to go out there, you got to jump on a plane and press the flesh and do the old fashioned thing, wear out a couple pair of shoes. But it's so much easier to do business now with this technology that we have. And it's going to get even more, hopefully simpler to do. But my oldest daughter said, Dad, you built this thing out of nothing. Atrium Unlimited Consulting didn't exist until you started it. I said, yeah, and it wasn't always easy. You had days you didn't get paid, weeks you didn't get paid, but you as you said, you use those 33 years of knowledge to sell yourself and sell your company's abilities to a client that says, yeah, we're going to take a chance on you. I signed one guy after one meeting. He goes, how much do you need to make a month? And I said, well, let me say, no, don't, that's good. You're the guy, John. What do you need a month? And I threw a number at him. He goes, okay. I said, damn, I should have gone higher. But yeah, it's working out well. So, I think people need to have a door slammed in their face when they're young, when trying to make a sales call at a supermarket when they don't want to see you. I think you've got to face rejection and get stronger. But more importantly, this is basic stuff. Learn from your experiences. One of the things that we did at Nextel, which was probably the greatest work culture I've ever seen. Our rules were very simple. You hire good people and get out of their way. Let them do their job. And if they fail, if they make a mistake or they come to you, oh, I'm so sorry. That's great. You dust them off, you put them back on the horse, and you send them back out there. Now, if that happens continually, you have a different conversation. But most people learn from their mistakes. Okay, what did I do wrong that cost me that part of the business? I'm not going to do it again. But you have to experience that. You have to be downsized. You have to face adversity. You have to realize that not everything is going to go your way. I made a terrific pitch last month to a prospective client, and they decided to go in a different direction. Okay, that's okay. You're not going to get. Yeah, you're not going to get everyone as good as you think you are. There's always somebody better. And so, yeah, that's kind of how I look at it. And luckily, I'm in an industry, we all are, that is not slowing down by any means. Yes, it's becoming a younger man's game. But, I think when you say that I've been doing this for 30 plus years, that gets people attention. And yeah.
Well, back to your original point. No one's going to hire a consultant with 3 years experience, right? I mean,
Right.
you've done your time, you paid your dues, you've seen it done this, that way, and the other, and there's value in that. So back to your point on ageism. I mean, I've had friends too. Yeah, I mean, I'm in that over 50 club, and people call me, they get laid off. I'm like, Chris, what am I going to do? I mean, I'm done. There's no one going to hire me. I'm like, hey, don't undervalue your experience. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of young folks coming into the business, which is great. We need new people in technology. I mean, CompTIA did a study a few years ago saying there was a concern there wasn't enough young people coming into technology, which is kind of scary because, as an industry, especially U.S. industry, we need that. We need to keep the changing of the guard. But there's value in having experience. There's value in having the gray hair. We've made it our fair share of mistakes, and that's right. Well, yeah, you look great. You have no gray hair. I love your approach.
But the biggest thing I learned from that advisory group that I mentioned earlier was how do you price your services? Now, I could not have been a consultant 10 years ago because I didn't have the breadth of contacts that I do now at all levels of the carriers and the aggregators and the other providers. I was struggling with how to price a job. Do I price it so high that they say no thank you or so low, like, okay, it's going to be $300 an hour, and their budget was 600, and they go, sure, let's go. And then you go, my facilitator of the group gave me great advice, which I would give to anybody that's going to be in the consulting, or as our good friend Bob LaFawn, mutual friend of ours from Capital Growth Partners, said, we're not a consultancy group, we're an advisory group. And I had him on my podcast last month, and I said, oh, so how much are you going to charge me to change my name to Atrium Advisory? And we had a good laugh. But the advice I got was, don't lower your price ever. Lower the amount of services you provide. All right? Because you'll lower your price, and they're still going to want what you originally told them you're going to do for them. Right? And you can't afford to do that. So say, okay, I was going to charge you X amount a month, but they can only afford, $2,000 less than that. Fine. I'm not going to be able to handle this part that's in the scope of work. Let's just take that out. And more times than normal, they go, all right, you can do all that for the higher number. I said, yeah, we can do that. We have the team to. Yeah, right.
Now they
yeah.
see the value.
Now they lose respect for you if you keep dropping your price. So anyway, that's the Jon Horovitz story. I hope there's a lot more years to it. I take a lot of ribbing from, a couple of my clients, and also my a lot of people that I know in the business. Like, how long are you going to do this? I said, very simple. To quote a good friend of mine who's still delivering babies at 74, 73 years old, he goes, I have no retirement skills. This is what I do. And, you got to love what you do. And I love it. I mean, I was on a 7:00 call today because the other people were in Europe, and it's Friday afternoon and they don't want to be there. They want to get out of town. And, so, you gotta, this is what I do. I love it. And, hopefully I've been able to build something that, is going to matter.
Oh yeah, no, I would say that it has, and again, you're pouring back into our society through your papers, your website, and your podcast, and now your advisory company. I mean, you're again, you're sharing what you know. So a lot of people, if you're listening and you've been doing this for decades plus, you have a lot of skills that the world needs to know about. So yeah, you should make yourself available and give back, and I think the universe will give back to you as well. So. Jon, I've really enjoyed our conversation.
Yeah,
I look forward to getting this, getting it edited and getting it out to the world. But thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Well, Chris, thank you for having me on. And I just hope that your listeners, found some value in this. I don't think that I'm the most exciting guy to interview, but we'll see how it goes. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. Thank you for that. And as we wrap up here, the takeaways. We've all, I don't know if you've heard the cliche, instead of saying, why did this happen to me? Why did this happen for me? A lot of things happen to you throughout your life that turned out to be it's kind of a stoic philosophy. I was another big fan of Ryan Holiday and the Stoics. But, how can you take your circumstances and find that path out of it? Don't stay there, and don't be indecisive. Sometimes you just got to move forward, and you got to do things you may not feel comfortable doing, but you got, when in doubt, do something. Doing nothing is just not a good strategy. So yeah, I really appreciate it. It's been a good talk, man. I appreciate it.
One last word. Don't be afraid to fail.
Yeah.
Right. There's many people,
That's right.
Like Michael Jordan said, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Okay. You're not going to make every one. You're not going to win every game, but you know what? You go out there, you give it an honest day's work, and at the end of the day, if you're not tired, you didn't work hard enough. That's how I look at it. I get tired a lot sooner than I used to. No, I'm just kidding. But, all is good. All is good.
Well,
all right.
Well, no, there you go, folks, man. I appreciate you guys checking out this episode of The Wireless Way. And as always, if you like what you heard, something hit that you thought a colleague might need to hear, please share and subscribe and comment and all that. The algorithms love that. And that helps more people hear it, believe it or not. So thank you for that. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time on The Wireless Way.